a human alone for 20 years, until 3 alien girls made a bold demand. 20 years of silence could drive anyone mad, but Marcus Chun had made peace with it. Or so he told himself every morning when he woke to the hum of Helios 7's life support systems. The terraforming station orbited a barren moon in the Kepler 442 system, a monument to humanity's ambition, and, in Marcus's case, a gilded cage. He'd been 35 when the solar flare hit, destroying every communication relay between him and Earth in a cascade of electromagnetic fury. The supply ships never came. The rescue missions never launched. For 2 decades, he'd been the only human consciousness in 400 light years. His callous hands worked soil in Biodome 3, the largest of the station's agricultural sectors. Tomatoes, lettuce, wheat, all thriving under calibrated LED arrays that mimicked Earth's sun. "Looking good today, ladies," he murmured to a row of cucumber plants, his voice hoarse from disuse. Talking to plants kept him sane. Mostly. He was 55 now, his dark hair streaked with gray, his face weathered despite the controlled environment. Lean muscle covered his frame from years of manual labor, maintaining a station designed for a crew of 20. Every panel repaired, every filter replaced, every line of code debugged, all by him alone. The work kept his body strong. The memories kept his heart weak. In the residential module, he ate dinner in front of a holographic display, showing videos of his wife, Sarah. Her laugh echoed through the empty mess hall as she demonstrated an experiment from 15 years before the flare. He'd watched this recording 3,847 times. He knew because he'd counted. "I miss you," he whispered to the flickering image. Sarah smiled back, frozen in a moment when hope still existed. That night, the proximity alarm shattered his routine. Marcus sprinted to the command center, his heart hammering against his ribs. The screen showed a vessel descending toward Landing Bay 2, sleek, organic in design, utterly alien. His breath caught. In 20 years, he'd seen nothing but asteroids and equipment drones. "No, no, no," he muttered, pulling up defensive protocols that hadn't been tested in decades. But what could he do? Fight? Run? Where? The ship landed with barely a whisper. Marcus watched through security feeds as the airlock cycled. His finger hovered over the emergency lockdown button. 3 figures emerged through the mist. They were humanoid, but clearly not human. Even through the grainy feed, Marcus could see the differences. The way they moved with fluid grace, the strange luminescence of their skin, the foreign elegance of their features. The tallest approached the inner door and looked directly at the camera. Her expression was unreadable, but her intent was clear. She knew he was watching. Then she pressed the door controls with confidence, as if she owned the station. Marcus's isolation had just ended, whether he wanted it to or not. Marcus stood in the airlock corridor, a plasma torch gripped in his trembling hand. Not much of a weapon, but all he had. The inner door hissed open, releasing a wave of cool, unfamiliar air that carried scent of ozone and something floral he couldn't identify. The 3 women stepped through with cautious confidence. The leader stood tallest, perhaps 6 feet, with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl. Intricate bioluminescent patterns traced along her neck and collarbone, pulsing gently with each breath. Her hair flowed like liquid copper, and her eyes, startlingly golden, fixed on Marcus with sharp intelligence. "You are Marcus Chun," she stated, her voice melodic but commanding. "How do you—" Marcus began, but she raised a hand. "I am Lyra of the Celestian Protectorate. This is Zena." She gestured to the woman on her left, whose skin gleamed like polished silver, short white hair framing a face of angular beauty and curious bright blue eyes. "And Kaya?" The third woman offered a gentle smile, her features softer, her skin shifting with subtle violet and lavender hues that seemed to respond to her emotions. "You're in our database," Zena said, pulling a translucent device from her belt. "Lead botanist and engineer Helios 7. Presumed dead after the 2045 flare. But your biosignature is strong. You survived alone." Her tone carried admiration. "What do you want?" Marcus kept the torch raised, though his arm ached. Lyra stepped closer, fearless. "Sanctuary. We're fugitives from the Dominion, a military faction that wants to eliminate us for refusing their genetic conscription programs. We've been running for 3 solar cycles. Your station doesn't exist in current galactic records. It's perfect. You can't stay here, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. 20 years alone, and now 3 alien women wanted to move in? We're not asking, Lyra replied coolly. If you refuse, we'll broadcast your location to every trading post in the sector. Pirates, scavengers, Dominion patrols. They'll all come. You'll lose your solitude permanently. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's blackmail. That's survival. Lyra's golden eyes didn't waver. We need 3 months. Time to repair our ship's quantum drive and plot a course to the outer reaches. In exchange, we'll help maintain your station. Xena is an engineer. Kaya is a medic. I'm a tactical specialist. We're useful. Kaya stepped forward, her violet hues deepening with empathy. We don't want to threaten you. We're just desperate. Please. Her voice carried a warmth that penetrated Marcus's defenses more effectively than Lyra's ultimatum. Marcus lowered the torch. What choice did he have? And something in him, something he thought dead, stirred at the prospect of voices other than his own echoing through the corridors. 3 months, he said finally. You stay in the guest quarters. Don't touch the biodomes without my permission, and no broadcasting anything from this station. Lyra's lips curved into a satisfied smile. Agreed. As Marcus led them through the station, explaining systems and protocols, he felt their eyes on him, assessing, curious, maybe even sympathetic. Xena paused at Sarah's photo on the wall. Your mate? She asked softly. My wife. She died before the flare. I'm sorry, Kaya said, her skin shifting to deeper purples. Marcus nodded curtly and kept walking. He'd survived 20 years alone. He could survive 3 months with company. What he didn't expect was how quickly the station would stop feeling empty. The first week was awkward, a dance of boundaries and unspoken rules. Marcus woke to sounds he'd forgotten. Running water, footsteps, voices discussing things in a language that shifted melodically between words he understood and alien phonemes. The Celestians adapted quickly, their technology interfacing seamlessly with the systems. Xena proved invaluable. She identified inefficiencies in his power distribution that he'd lived with for years, fixing them in an afternoon with techniques that seemed like magic. Your technology is charmingly primitive, she said without condescension, her blue eyes bright with genuine interest. But elegant. You've done remarkable work alone. Marcus found himself spending hours with her in the engineering bay, explaining Earth technology while she shared Celestian principles. She laughed, a sound like chimes, when he showed her his handwritten maintenance logs. You physically wrote all this? She touched the yellowed pages with reverence. We abandoned physical writing 2,000 years ago. This is beautiful. Sometimes the old ways are reliable, Marcus said, surprised by the warmth in his chest. Kaya gravitated toward the biodomes. She had an intuitive understanding of living systems that rivaled his decades of experience. Together, they expanded the hydroponic sections, and she introduced bioluminescent algae from her world that increased oxygen production by 15%. Plants speak, you know. Kaya said one afternoon, her fingers gentle on a tomato vine. Not in words, but in chemical signals, electromagnetic pulses. You've been listening to them all these years. That's why you're not entirely alone. Marcus looked at her, at the way violet light played across her serene features. You're an empath. Yes, it's why exile is so hard. I feel the emotions of others, and there's been nothing but... She gestured vaguely. Your profound sadness soaking into these walls. The observation should have felt invasive, but instead it felt like being seen for the first time in 20 years. Lyra was the hardest to read. She spent her days running security protocols, strengthening the station's defenses, and monitoring for Dominion signals. But in the evenings, she'd appear in a common area where Marcus prepared dinner, watching him with those unsettling golden eyes. You cook every meal from scratch, she observed on the 10th day. No point in doing otherwise, Marcus replied, chopping vegetables. Teach me. He blinked. You want to learn to cook. We've survived on nutrition packs for months. Real food, prepared with intention. It's a luxury I've forgotten. She moved beside him, close enough that he could smell her scent. Ozone and something like cinnamon. The cooking lessons became ritual. Lyra's tactical precision translated surprisingly well to following recipes, though she had opinions about everything. "Why does pasta take so long?" she complained. "It's inefficient." "Some things worth having require patience," Marcus countered, and she'd smirk in a way that made his pulse quicken. 3 weeks in, Marcus introduced him to music. He played everything from classical to jazz, watching their reactions. Xena analyzed the mathematical patterns. Kaya swayed with closed eyes, absorbing the emotions. But Lyra stood and extended her hand. "Show me how humans move to this." Marcus hesitated. He hadn't danced since Sarah. But Lyra's expectant expression broke something in him. He took her hand, warm, slightly electric, and pulled her close. They moved awkwardly at first, then found a rhythm. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed brighter, synchronized with the music. "You've been alone too long," Lyra murmured, her face inches from his. 20 years, he admitted. "That's 10 Celestian years. A lifetime." Her golden eyes searched his. "But you're not alone now." Marcus felt the pull, the magnetic attraction. He leaned closer, his breath mingling with hers. But at the last moment, he pulled away, memories of Sarah crashing over him like a wave. "I can't," he whispered, releasing her. Lyra's patterns dimmed. She nodded once, understanding, and stepped back. "When you're ready," she said softly, then left him standing in the artificial starlight filtering through the dome above. The crisis came on day 32. A coolant leak in Biodome released toxic vapors into the enclosed space. Alarms shrieked through the station. Marcus ran, sealing sections, but Xena had already entered the dome, trying to manually override the ventilation. "Xena, get out!" Marcus shouted, pulling on a respirator, but she collapsed, her silver skin darkening. Marcus didn't think. He charged in, his lungs burning despite the respirator. He dragged her unconscious form through the airlock as Kaya rushed forward with medical equipment. "She's not breathing properly," Kaya said, her hands glowing violet as she worked. "Our respiratory system is different. I need to." "Do whatever it takes," Marcus commanded, holding Xena's head steady. For 20 agonizing minutes, Kaya worked while Lyra paced like a caged predator. Finally, Xena gasped, her eyes fluttering open. She saw Marcus first and smiled weakly. "You saved me." "Of course I did," Marcus said, surprised by the fierceness in his voice. That night, they gathered in Marcus's quarters, all 4 of them crowded in the space he'd occupied alone for so long. The near tragedy had stripped away pretenses. "We need to tell you the truth," Lyra began, her patterns pulsing nervously. "We didn't just come here for sanctuary." Marcus tensed. "What do you mean?" Kaya took his hand. "Our species is dying. A genetic collapse from centuries of limited population diversity. We need new genetic material to survive. The Dominion wanted to force us into breeding programs, to control us. We escaped to find willing partners instead. You need..." Marcus processed the implication. "You," Xena said quietly. "Your genetic code. But Marcus, we came here with a demand, and we've stayed because of a choice. We've come to care for you. Truly." Lyra moved closer. "We won't ask you to do anything you don't want. If you want us to leave when the ship is repaired, we will. But I need you to know, I feel something for you I've never felt before." Marcus looked at each of them. Lyra with her fierce golden eyes, Xena with her curious brilliance, Kaya with her empathic warmth. For 20 years, he'd been faithful to a ghost. But Sarah wouldn't have wanted this half-life for him. He reached out and cupped Lyra's face. "I'm terrified," he admitted. "So am I," she whispered. Their lips met under the stars visible through his viewport. A kiss that tasted of new beginnings and the death of loneliness. When they parted, Xena and Kaya were smiling, their joy genuine and unselfish. The attack came at dawn on day 47. Dominion patrol ships dropped from Quantum Fold directly above the station. Marcus barely had time to sound the alarm before weapons fire raked across the outer hull. "They found us," Lyra snarled, racing to command center. They must have intercepted residual quantum signatures from our ship. Can we fight them? Marcus asked, pulling up defensive systems. With what? This station has no weapons. Marcus smiled grimly. No weapons, but we have terraforming equipment. He turned to Xena. Can you overload the atmospheric processors? Her eyes widened with understanding. Create a particle field dense enough to disrupt their targeting systems. Exactly. Kaya, reroute all power to shields. Lyra, get to your ship. Can it fly? Barely, but yes. Then lead them away from the station. I'll create cover. They move with synchronized purpose, the awkwardness of strangers replaced by the fluid coordination of a team. Marcus's fingers flew across controls he'd maintained for 20 years, pushing systems beyond their design specifications. The station shuddered as atmospheric processors vented clouds of ionized particles into space, creating an artificial nebula around Helios 7. Lyra launched in her ship, drawing fire. She flew with reckless courage, her vessel weaving between Dominion craft. Xena hacked their communications, filling their channels with electromagnetic noise. Kaya kept the shield stable, her empathic abilities somehow extending to the station systems, sensing weak points before they failed. Marcus activated the last desperate measure, the station's mining lasers. Designed to cut asteroid rock, they weren't military grade, but at close range, they were devastating. He targeted the lead Dominion ship's engines. The laser struck true. The ship spun out of control, colliding with its wingmen. The remaining vessels retreated, unwilling to risk further losses for 3 fugitives. Lyra returned to the station, her ship trailing smoke but intact. They met in the airlock, and she threw herself into Marcus's arms, her whole body trembling. We won, she breathed. We survived, Marcus corrected, holding her tight. In the aftermath, they surveyed the damage. Reparable but extensive. Marcus found himself in the observation deck, staring at the stars that kept him company for 2 decades. What are you thinking? Xena asked, appearing beside him with Kaya. That this station was supposed to be a waypoint. Marcus said slowly, a place to prepare planets for colonization. But colonists never came. He turned to face all 3 women. What if it became something else? A sanctuary, like you said. Not just for you, but for others running from persecution. There are plenty of empty modules, enough biodomes to feed hundreds. Lyra joined them, her patterns glowing bright. You do that? Give up your solitude. Marcus laughed, the sound rusty but genuine. I gave it up the moment you 3 walked through that airlock, and I don't want it back. Sarah would have loved this idea. She always believed humanity's purpose was to help others thrive. And us. Kaya asked softly, do you want us to stay? Marcus took Lyra's hand, then reached for Xena and Kaya. I spent 20 years mourning what I'd lost. You 3 showed me I could still build something new. Yes, I want you to stay. All of you, if you'll have me. Their answer came in embraces, in laughter that echoed through corridors too long silent, in the intertwining of different lives becoming one family. Over the following months, they transformed Helios 7. Word spread carefully through underground networks. A safe haven existed in the Kepler system. Other Celestian refugees arrived. Then a family of Andraxians. A colony of Elysian explorers seeking peaceful contact. Marcus Chun, who had been alone for 20 years, became the coordinator of a thriving interspecies community. His biodomes grew food for dozens of species. His engineering bay buzzed with collaborative innovation, and in his quarters, now expanded, he shared his life with 3 extraordinary women who had given him back his purpose. One evening, standing in Biodome 1 with Lyra, Xena, and Kaya, watching the first Celestian-human hybrid children play among the tomato plants, Marcus felt Sarah's presence not as a ghost, but as a blessing. Thank you, he whispered to the memory, and finally, after 20 years, he let her go. The stars no longer represented isolation. They represented possibility. And Marcus Chin was no longer alone. The end.